I'll let you pick. I could do minimum wage or balance of trade or Kim? Oh, Jesus was a socialist. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Yeah, let's do that. I'm glad. Thank you for thinking of that. That's a chapter in here. And in fact, that essay that is a chapter in here, and the heading reads like the myth does, that Jesus would be a redistributionist because he wanted to help the poor. That's been expanded. After I wrote the chapter, I roughly doubled it into an essay, a standalone, and it's available for $1 or $2 on our website, but you can read it free there too. If you just go to fee.org and type in, was Jesus a socialist, you'll go right to it. I hear this all the time. How many of you have heard it, one version or another? Amazing number of kids come up thinking that, oh yeah, he wanted to share things, and he wanted to help poor people. I remember a few years ago answering this myth before I ever wrote it up in Nassau, Bahamas, on a television show with two guys, very progressive in their leanings, and me in the middle. They were on either side, peppering me with questions. And at one point, I kind of had a revelation, but it was because of the way they set it up. One of them said, "Oh, Mr. Reed, you're a Christian and you're also a capitalist." Like it's, like that's not compatible. Yeah. And he said, the one guy says, "What about the Good Samaritan story? Doesn't that suggest we need government programs? A guy needs help. You need programs to help people." And just the way he set it up, I thought, well, wait a minute. The Good Samaritan was a Good Samaritan because of his personal response to the situation. He didn't say to the guy in the ditch, call your social worker, or, oh, that's a duty for your congressman. No, what did he do? He pitched in. He helped the guy personally. That's why he's a Good Samaritan. If he'd done the other, we'd know him to this day as the good-for-nothing Samaritan. So, but you can see the progressive mindset. They just thought, oh, person in need must be a government problem. As if we're all, we know how to elect the compassionate people, but we don't know how to be compassionate ourselves, which is so ridiculous. There is a passage in the book of Luke, where Luke 12, 13 through 15, where Christ is approached by a man who's with a request for a little redistribution. He says, "Master, speak to my brother that he divideth the inheritance with me." In other words, with a wave of the hand, you could divvy things up a little better. And you know what Christ's response was? He didn't say, well, I'll look into it. I'll see, what he's got, what you got, and we'll try to make it more equal. He immediately said, "Man, who made me a judge or divider over you?" Wouldn't you love to see the day when Harry Reid or Nancy Pelosi would say that to anybody demanding something from the government? Stand up and say, "Oh, sorry, who made me a judge or divider over you?" No, they would never say that because they're doing it all the time. But when Christ was presented with this opportunity, he rebuked the man for his envy and his covetousness, told him to shift his focus elsewhere. Christ never once, anywhere, is recorded to have advocated anything that looks even remotely like the use of political power to take from some and give to others. None. Zero. There is no such passage anywhere. In the parable of the talents that he told, we have a famous, reasonably well-known, I should say, example of three men who are told to go out and put some money to use, and which one ends up being lauded in the story? It's the one who turns it into the greatest return, the one who's criticized, from whom, as I recall, isn't there something taken from him and given to the guy who already made the most? Yeah, the message is, don't sit on your wealth. Don't think you're doing some good for people by just sitting on it, not creating more. Here's the guy who went out with what he had and he created wealth. He made the world better off as a result. He's the one we will reward. That's the message of the parable of the talents. Christ came because, as he said more than once, to fulfill the law. And an important centerpiece of the law, of course, is the Ten Commandments, two of which deal directly with private property. One of them, the 8th, says, "Thou shalt not steal." Note there's a period. after the word steal. It does not say thou shalt not steal unless the other guy has more than you do. Or thou shalt not steal unless you're just absolutely convinced you could use it better or spend it better than the guy who earned it. Or thou shalt not steal unless you can hire a politician who will do it for you. Thou shalt not covet, the 10th commandment. So I don't think Jesus was a socialist at all. He was, first of all, concerned with far more important things than the material wealth or material substance of our earthly lives. But when pressed, it was quite apparent, I think, from all that he said. He would not call for the cops to come in and, under the force of government, take from some and give to others. So I don't see how he could be a socialist.